The laughter started before he even reached the table. It wasn't quiet laughter either. It was the kind meant to be heard. Sharp, cutting. The kind that makes sure you know exactly where you stand. Marcus didn't stop walking. The boardroom doors had barely finished opening when all eyes locked onto him. 12 executives. Tailored suits. Polished shoes. $1,000,000 smiles, except now those smiles were twisted with confusion and amusement. A black man in a janitor's uniform, holding a mop handle, stepping into a high-level executive meeting. Wrong place. That's what every single face in that room was screaming. "Hey!" one of the men said, leaning back in his chair, smirking like he owned the air itself. "Cleaning crews early today." A few chuckles followed. Marcus said nothing. He kept walking. Slow, calm, controlled. Another voice, sharper this time, came from the woman at the far end. "Excuse me, you can't be in here. This is a closed meeting." Marcus stopped at the head of the table. That's when the laughter got louder. "Oh, this is good," someone whispered. "He thinks he's part of the meeting." A younger executive pulled out his phone, clearly ready to record. "Man, HR's gonna love this one." Marcus rested both hands lightly on the back of the chair at the head of the table. Still silent, still calm, still completely unfazed. "You deaf or something?" the first man snapped, irritation creeping into his voice now. He said, "Get out." Marcus finally looked up. Not angry, not nervous, just observing. "I'm exactly where I need to be," he said quietly. That did it. The room re-erupted. "Did you hear that? This guy's got jokes. Security?" One of them slammed a button under the table. "You're about to lose your job," the woman said coldly. "And honestly, you deserve it." Marcus didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't argue. He simply pulled out the chair and sat down. Right at the head of the table, the room went dead silent. For half a second. Then chaos. "Oh, hell no. Get him out of here now. This is insane." The door burst open as 2 security guards rushed in. "There he is," the man in the suit pointed. "Remove him immediately." The guards approached Marcus. "Sir, you need to come with us," one of them said, firm but not aggressive. Marcus looked up at him. "Do eyes?" he asked. Before the guard could respond, Potchley, "No, he doesn't." The voice came from the doorway. Deep, commanding, unquestionable. Every head snapped toward it. And just like that, the entire room changed, because standing there was Daniel Whitmore, the CEO, the man whose signature alone could make or break every career in that room. And he wasn't smiling. He walked in slowly, eyes scanning the scene, the guards, the executives, Marcus sitting calmly at the head of the table. "Would someone," Daniel said, his voice dangerously calm, "like to explain what exactly is going on here?" No one spoke, not a single word. The man who had been laughing the loudest earlier suddenly looked like he couldn't breathe. "Sir," the woman finally said, forcing a polite tone, "there seems to have been a misunderstanding. This employee wandered into the meeting and refused to leave." Daniel's eyes shifted to Marcus Chaven. Then something happened that no one in that room was prepared for. Daniel smiled. Not a big smile, but enough. Enough to send a chill down every spine in that room. "An employee," Daniel repeated slowly. He walked over, stopped right beside Marcus, then placed a hand on his shoulder. "Let me introduce you properly," Daniel said. The silence was suffocating now. "This is Marcus Holy." No reaction. Confusion, blank stares. Daniel's smile widened just slightly. "He owns 51% of this company." The air left the room completely, like someone had just pulled the oxygen out of existence. Someone whispered, "That's not possible." Marcus leaned back in his chair, finally speaking again. "I believe," he said calmly, "this is my meeting." No one moved. No one blinked. The same people who had been laughing minutes ago now looked like they were standing on the edge of a cliff, and the ground had just disappeared. The man who had called security tried to recover first. "Sir, if this is some kind of joke—" "It's not." Daniel cut him off. Hard, sharp, final. "Mr. Hurley has been the majority shareholder for over 3 years now. 3 years. 3 years. And none of them knew." Marcus folded his hands on the table. "I like to keep a low profile," he said. "Helps me see how things really work." His eyes moved across the room, locking onto each person, one by one. "And today," he continued, "was very enlightening." The woman at the end of the table swallowed hard. "Mr. Hurley, I apologize if there was any misunderstanding." Marcus raised a hand. She stopped immediately. "No," he said. "There was no misunderstanding." Silence again. Heavy, crushing. "You saw a black man in a janitor's uniform. Marcus continued, his voice steady, controlled, and you decided exactly who I was, before I said a single word. No one dared to interrupt. You laughed, he added. You mocked. You called security. Each word landed like a hammer. The younger executive slowly lowered his phone, his face pale. Marcus leaned forward slightly. Tell me something, he said, his tone almost conversational now. If I looked like you, would you have reacted the same way? No answer, because everyone in that room knew the truth. Marcus nodded slowly. Yeah, he said. That's what I thought. Daniel stepped back, letting the silence stretch, letting it hurt. Now, Marcus said, sitting upright again, let's talk about leadership. No one breathed, because what I saw today, he paused, looking around, was not leadership. The man near the middle tried to speak. Sir, we've all worked very hard for this company. And yet, Marcus interrupted, this is how you treat people you think are beneath you. The word beneath hung in the air like poison. Marcus stood up, slowly, deliberately. You didn't just fail me today, he said. You failed every employee who walks through those doors hoping to be treated with respect. The woman's voice trembled. Please, give us a chance to make this right. Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Then he sighed. I already did, he said quietly. The moment I walked in silence. Final, unavoidable. Marcus turned slightly toward Daniel. Let's begin, he said. Daniel nodded once, then looked at the room. If I were you, Daniel said, I'd listen very carefully to what happens next. Because careers, reputations, entire futures were about to change. Right there, in that room. And this time, no one was laughing. Marcus didn't sit back down. He let the silence stretch just a little longer, watching the discomfort settle deep into every face in that room. The same people who had laughed minutes ago now couldn't even hold eye contact. Let's make one thing clear, Marcus said, his voice still calm but now carrying weight that felt impossible to ignore. This isn't about embarrassment. This is about truth. He began walking slowly around the table. Every step echoed. When people think no one important is watching, that's when their real character shows. He continued. Not during presentations, not during interviews, but in moments like this. He stopped behind the man who had called security first. What's your name? Marcus asked. Jason, he stammered. Jason, Marcus repeated. You were very confident a few minutes ago. Jason swallowed hard. Sir, you didn't ask who I was. Marcus cut in. You didn't question the situation. You made a decision based on appearance. Jason lowered his head. Marcus moved on. He stopped near the woman who had threatened his job. And you? He asked. Rebecca, she said quietly. You said I deserved to lose my job? Marcus said, looking directly at her. Tears were forming in her eyes now. I didn't know. That's exactly the point, Marcus replied. He let that sink in before continuing. You didn't know, but you acted anyway. The room felt heavier with every second. Marcus walked back to the head of the table, placing both hands on it again. For 3 years, he said, I've invested in this company, expanded it, protected it, built opportunities for thousands of employees. He paused. And today, I saw how fragile that culture really is. Daniel stepped forward slightly but said nothing. He didn't need to. Marcus was in full control now. I've visited multiple branches like this, Marcus continued. Different cities, different offices, same test. A few heads slowly lifted in shock. And do you know something? Marcus said. Some places passed. Silence, but this one. He looked around the room again, disappointment clear now. This one failed. No one could argue, because they all knew it was true. The younger executive who had been recording earlier suddenly spoke, his voice shaking. Sir, please, we can fix this. We can implement new policies, more training. Marcus raised his hand again. Policies don't fix character, he said. People do. That line hit harder than anything before. Marcus took a deep breath, then straightened. So here's what's going to happen, he said. Every single person in that room tensed. Effective immediately, Marcus continued. This entire leadership team is under review. A wave of panic swept across the table. Some of you, he added, won't be here by the end of the week. No one spoke. No one dared. But this isn't just about punishment, Marcus said. It's about rebuilding something better. He turned toward Daniel briefly, then back to the room. A company isn't defined by profit margins, he said. It's defined by how it treats the people with the least power. That line hung in the air like a final verdict. Starting tomorrow, Marcus continued, we're launching a complete culture audit across every department here. He looked directly at Rebecca, and you'll be part of it. Her eyes widened in confusion. Me? Yes, Marcus said. You'll help fix what you helped expose. She nodded slowly, tears slipping down her face now not just from fear, but from realization. Marcus then looked at Jason. And you, he said, will spend the next 30 days working alongside the cleaning staff. Jason blinked, stunned. Sir, you'll learn what it feels like, Marcus said, to be ignored, dismissed, underestimated. Jason nodded quickly. Yes, sir. Marcus finally stepped back and took his seat again. But this time, no one questioned it. No one even blinked. Because now, everyone in that room understood exactly who he was. And one more thing, Marcus said, his tone softer now but somehow even more powerful. Everyone leaned in slightly. I didn't wear this uniform to trick you, he said, glancing down at it. I wore it to remind myself where I came from. He looked up again. Never forget that the people you overlooked today might be the ones holding your future tomorrow. Complete silence. Not uncomfortable anymore. Just real. Daniel finally spoke again, his voice firm. Meeting adjourned. Chairs moved slowly. No one rushed. No one spoke loudly. One by one, they walked out, humbled in a way they would never forget. Marcus stayed seated for a moment longer, then stood up, adjusting his sleeves slightly. Daniel stepped closer. You handled that perfectly. Marcus gave a small nod. They needed to see it. Daniel smiled faintly. They won't forget it. Marcus looked toward the door where the last executive had just exited. No, he said quietly. They won't. And for the first time since he walked into that room, there was no laughter left in the building.